So glad to have you all here today. And hopefully this will provide you with a little bit of more detail and explanation, and then also allow you the opportunity to ask questions if you have any. So please feel free to either add something to the chat. If you have something in the chat as we're going along, I think Rosie will be able to alert me and we can stop and answer that question. Otherwise, there'll be an opportunity at the end where we can go back through the slides to cover something maybe that I didn't touch on. So we'll go ahead and get ourselves started. And as we do with all things, we'll start with our prayer that was created by our spiritual advisor, Sister Maria Teresa Acosta. So in the name of the Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. Almighty God, we thank you for your mercy and goodness. Grant us the grace to respond like Our Lady of the Visitation and go in haste with attentive hearts to the needs of others. May we place the gift of our feminine genius in the loving service for the Church by building a new civilization of love, life, truth, and solidarity. Our Lady of the Visitation, pray for us. Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. So as we get started, I just want to keep in mind, our vision, our mission statement, which is strengthening our community through values-based, strategic, engaged, and collective philanthropy, and taking inspiration from Mary, saying yes to active works of charity as witnesses of faith and hope. So let's keep that in mind, but we'll start going through our little agendas for today. And really, this is going to follow along with the email that was sent last Wednesday. So hopefully you all received that. I know there were a few glitches where people saw the replies that came through, but didn't get the original email with the attachments. So later today, I'm going to send out a recording of this and just make sure that everybody received the attachments, which we're going to go over today. And again, hopefully everybody has what they need to be able to move forward with the review and scoring. So let's go over the goals quickly. So the goals are really fourfold. So we have educational, confidential, transparent, and fair. I hope this process is educational, that with these 19 applications, you see some of the needs that are in the community and how these particular organizations are working to address those needs. Confidential, just to keep in mind, I'm sure you're all already aware of this, that these organizations submitted these applications directly to the Women's Giving Circle. So it really is just for Women's Giving Circle review and scoring. Please don't share this information, specific information about these applications outside of the Women's Giving Circle. Things that you learn about it, what an organization is doing in general, I mean, that again is part of education. So hopefully you feel free to share that, but the specifics of the program, the specifics of their request is confidential. Transparent. All the grant applicants had access to our criteria list, so they all saw how the process was going to happen, what eligibility was, and so after the review is complete, we do feel out of transparency, it's beneficial to these organizations to share the overall scores that they receive. They won't see any individual scores, any individual names associated with comments. But what we do want to do is share any constructive comments with organizations that submitted a request to us, in hopes that can help them with future applications. So I'll go through areas where you could leave comments and constructive criticism on applications later. All of this will be reviewed by the executive committee, and then we'll get the direction from them about what is shared with the individual organizations. And then fair, again, what we're providing to you, which I'm going to go over in a minute, is exactly what was submitted by these applicants. So if they didn't answer something, if they didn't answer it clearly or to the extent that you would have hoped, it is exactly what they submitted. And we just ask that you review and score accordingly. Any questions really quick on the goals for the process before we dig in? Okay. Nope. All right, so we'll move forward to the first step, which is the conflict of interest form. So hopefully everybody received this. I do need everybody to return a copy of this. So real quick, I'll go over, as you see on the screen here, this is what it looks like. It is a fillable PDF form. We just ask that you put your name in here. If you do not serve as an employee or a board member of a nonprofit organization that operates within the boundaries of the diocese, whether it's a diocesan organization or a non-diocesan nonprofit, then you can go ahead and click this box with an X and then just sign. And by sign, you can either hand sign or just by typing your name in, we'll consider that a digital signature, and then date it, and then just save it and return it to me via email. If you decide to mail it, please email me and say, I've already put this in the mail, it's on its way to you, just so that I know to look out for it. But please feel free to just email this back to me. If you are an employee or if you serve on a board for any nonprofit within the boundaries of the diocese, we would just ask that you write the name of the organization here on this line. And again, that can be typed in, and then whether you're an employee or a board member, and you can do that for multiple organizations. And then again, just sign and date it and return it. And what that's going to tell us is to look and coordinate that with the surveys that we receive from you, so that if you don't answer something, and you'll see on the survey that there's an opportunity for you to write if you have a conflict of interest, that we can coordinate that and just make sure that you have recused yourself from the survey scoring for that particular organization. Does anybody have any questions on the conflict of interest form? Okay. All right, so let's go to the fun part where you get to take a look at the applications that were received. Now, we sent this to you in 2 formats, and that was really just, it contains pretty much the same information. I'm going to talk to you about a couple of slight differences between the two. You do not need to dig in and into both of them. Really, again, it's mostly the same information. Some people like to look at things in a spreadsheet format. Other people prefer kind of a written narrative format. So we were just providing this for convenience for you and how you might enjoy seeing the information. Again, the information is almost identical in both, and I will go over what those differences are with you. We did organize these into some categories for you: education, financial assistance, food insecurity, healthcare, social services, and housing. It's organized the same way in the Excel spreadsheet as it is in the PDF narrative, as it is on the survey. So if you're looking at the narrative or the Excel spreadsheet as you're going through the survey, it's going to follow the same order for your convenience. So let's talk about the Excel spreadsheet. This is just a screenshot of it. So your diocesan organizations are in shades of orange, and non-diocesan organizations are in shades of blue. There is a little row here that will tell you also if it's diocesan or non-diocesan in that section. So that's just, again, hopefully to help you. Another note here that's different from on the Excel spreadsheet from the PDF is this line right here. So on the Excel spreadsheet, it will indicate if that organization is already pre-approved as part of the Catholic Foundation's Donor Advised Fund program. All diocesan organizations are approved. Non-diocesan organizations that have that indicator have gone through our approval process to ensure that they're in line with Catholic values. There are a few organizations that do not have this indicated in this row or in this column. It doesn't mean that they're not approved. It just means they haven't gone through the process yet. So we wanted to indicate that on here. And again, that's something that you can take a look at if you're glancing through the Excel spreadsheet. It'll be here in this column A. Another note here on the Excel spreadsheet is this link here for 990. And this is a link that's also on the PDF narrative, but it's located here on the spreadsheet. And this is a link to a website where you can view a 990 for an organization. Now, this was only required of our non-diocesan entities. So this is what the 990 is it's an IRS form that really goes through, it takes a deep dive into the financials for an organization. They're required to submit this on an annual basis. There is a religious exemption, which is why you won't see this for the diocesan entities. There are some religious entities that don't claim the religious exemption and submit a 990, like the Catholic Foundation. We feel like it's very important for transparency to complete a 990 and make sure that our financials are out there and reviewable as we invest funds and we steward donations. So we do have a 990, but just note, if you don't see one there, that's not a cause for concern. That is completely ethical and in line that they don't submit a 990, but you will see that for every non-diocesan entity.
Madeline,
yeah,
can I just interject too? So
please.
the 990s share more than just the financials. They also share the governance practices of the nonprofit. So it's a dual story, if you will, that talks about their financials as well as how they operate from a governance perspective. So it will show you what kind of policies that their boards have approved and what they have in place. So it tells you both financially and from a governance perspective how that nonprofit is being managed.
Yes, and it also lists board members, so you can see that on there as well. Okay, any questions about the Excel spreadsheet? Oh, thank you. I see Kimberly wrote something in the chat too. Okay, so let's move on to the PDF narrative. So this is a PDF document. It's long, it's 80 pages. This is an example here of one of the narratives. So just to go through this with you, all of them are organized the same way. Here is the name of the program and the amount they're requesting. Down here is a link. Again, I know it's in black, so it might be confusing to people, but this is actually a link to the 990. And then if a ministry submitted a photo, so this was optional, but many did do that, submit one or more photos, that is included at the bottom of each application. So please feel free to take a look at that. They wanted to share that with us, and it's always nice to see those action photos. So this is the PDF, same information as the Excel spreadsheet as far as the information submitted by the applicant. So, so again, feel free to review this if this is more comfortable than the large Excel spreadsheet. Any questions on the PDF narrative? Okay. So now we'll go to really the fun part here, which is the scoring. This is a link to the survey that was also in the email in several places. So hopefully you don't have a problem finding the survey. This is the landing page that you'll see when you click on that. And it is required that you enter your name. We need to track member submissions, and we need to be able to do a check and balance with a conflict of interest form. So please submit your name here and click next. And then you'll be taken to the score sheet. So this score sheet is almost identical for every organization. The only difference here is at the top. You'll see the name of the organization and the program for which they're requesting support. That is the only difference on each page. There is one page per organization, so you'll see 19 of these. What is required on each of these is the conflict of interest. So here is where you'll select, yes, I serve on their board. Yes, I'm employed by the organization, or I have no conflict of interest. If you click yes to either of these, please skip all of this. Don't enter any information and just click next. It will take you to the next form where you can complete the same task. If you click I have no conflict of interest, then you go ahead and rank each of these criteria. So here at the top, and this will be at the top of every page, is the rating. So 1 to 5, 5 being the highest score that you can give. And you'll go through and click 1 to 5 for each of these. There is a comment box. It is not required to leave a comment for each of these. But if you feel that you need to have a little explanation, or you want to state something that the executive committee can review, please feel free to do so in these comment boxes. These follow along the grant application. So the questions that are asked in the grant application are reflected here in these different ratings. The one thing that's different is this last rating here, which is kind of a holistic question, right? So this is this application makes a compelling case. It shows the opportunity for sustained support, and it's a good use of the Women's Philanthropic Giving Circle's limited funding, right? So this is your ability to state whether you feel like this is a good use of the funding, right? So again, 1 to 5, any comments here? And then each application or each score sheet is going to have the opportunity for you to list weaknesses and strengths of the application. So if there's anything additional that you want to say, please feel free to enter those into these two boxes, but again, completely optional. When you're finished with the sheet, go ahead and click next. Until you get to the final sheet and hit submit or done, you will have the ability to go back to the previous pages. So as you're going through and you're like, oh, I really wanted to say something about another application, you can go ahead and hit that previous button and make any changes until you get to that final one and hit that submit button. Once you do that, it's in the books for SurveyMonkey. So again, please make any changes before you hit that final button, which is, I believe, the Boys Town application. So
I have a question.
Please.
So let's say I'm part of Morning Star Catholic School and I put that I serve on the board for it, but I still want to make some kind of comments, like some compelling comments. That's not allowed.
No.
Okay, just want to make sure that's clear.
Yeah. So
Okay.
if you have a conflict of interest, that's
You are null and void.
right. You're really recusing yourself from
Okay.
any type of comment on that.
Okay,
So
perfect. Just wanted to make sure.
yeah, no, that's a good clarification. So
Thank you.
Madeline, I had, when I first started looking at the scoring rubrics,
Mhm.
you know, maybe I was taking it too literally, but it appeared that I was rating how well the application was written rather than how worthy I thought the organization was. Because it talked about, you know, the responses were clear. Some of these you can tell were written by professional grant people. Others were written by, you know, probably one of the volunteers that worked there. But there were a couple questions that were also confusing to me. Probably the biggest one was the reliable funding. Because if an organization had a ton of funding, I would put 5. They have an outstanding, but yet they don't need my money, is what I was thinking. And in a little organization that was kind of a grassroots that really, I thought, needed more support, I would have to rank them as a 1. So when all this scoring is said and done, is it just a straight whoever has the highest score?
No, not necessarily. That is what's going to happen is the SurveyMonkey is going to provide us kind of a compilation of scoring, right? So they're gonna put the summary of everything together for us. It'll have any additional comments that were entered, and then we're gonna pull that information out and give it to the executive committee to review. So it's important for you to rate the application as you see it. So I don't think that you're doing anything wrong by rating things the way you are. I think that as the executive committee goes through the different questions, they're going to take that all into consideration. So don't worry too much about that. It's not going to average out how you rate all of these questions and spit out one final number for an organization that's just going to be, straight, quick answer for the executive committee is like, okay, this one has, 80 points and this one has 50 points. They're going to look at holistically per question, what was the overall or what was the average rating for that? And what are the comments that people said? So I think that's a perfect use of that comment box. Is you're rating them 1 or you're rating them 5, and then you're putting a comment in there about something that stuck out to you that you want to be sure that they consider as they're reviewing the overall applications. So please feel free to use the comment area for that, to rate it as you see fit. So one thing that's noted in here, and it was noted in the instructions, is that everybody's gonna rate this based on their own perspective and their philanthropic goals, and hopefully the mission of the Women's Giving Circle is this collaborative philanthropic effort. But there are no wrong answers here, right? So please don't worry too much about that. The executive committee is going to take all of this into consideration. They're going to take into consideration the total amount we have available for funding, and then they're going to narrow this down. So I'll talk in a minute after we're done with this about the next steps and kind of go through that. But again, this is the first round of voting. So what we're really trying to gauge here is how does the membership feel about these applications overall? And that's why I think this holistic question is really important. Is after you reviewed everything, maybe more objectively by question, kind of how do you feel subjectively about the overall application?
Yeah, well, and what I would say to kind of speak, that's an excellent comment and point, and thank you for bringing that up. And I'm glad we're recording this session, so anybody who watches this session will hear this. As Madeleine's saying, I think when you're looking at the goals of how we want to steward the gifts that the members have provided, this question that Madeleine's lifting up, this is where, you know, we're really asking you to rate the goals. As you said, your ratings are talking about how somebody has completed the application throughout that process, but then holistically, do you feel that that organization made a compelling case, that they show the opportunity to sustain impact if we're funding them, and would they be a good use of the funds that we have, the limited funds that we have? So that's going to be a critical funding element. Because it is a different perspective of whether or not they completed a really good application. The other questions that Madeline and her team included in the opportunity here are the additional strengths or the additional weaknesses. So the comment that you just made, you know, you might put in that there's a particular application that you feel you scored low, because you didn't feel that they actually completed the application very well, but maybe you feel like their case is compelling, it would be a good use of funds. You might say that they may not be a good grant writer, they may not have one on team, but you'd still like to see them because you feel like their case is compelling. So I would utilize those comments, and those will be very much utilized by the executive committee.
Thank you.
Okay, so one other thing I want to point out here is that the deadline for the survey is this Friday. So it is 19 score sheets. So please make sure you leave yourself enough time to go through this. Okay, so so just note that. Any other questions before we move on the scoring survey?
I have a question, Madeline.
Sure.
Is it possible to save your progress?
So I don't think SurveyMonkey has the opportunity to necessarily save progress, but they do, if you're using the same IP address and you're not blocking all cookies, it will save, it should save your place. It does save it within SurveyMonkey
Got it.
for us on the back end to see. So you should be able to open it back up. And I've already had some conversations with women who started it, who were indeed able to go back in and pick up where they left off.
Awesome. Thank you.
So if you think of any more questions, we'll have time at the end too, that you could bring those up. So I wanted to show you the revised timeline. So originally we had the 25th as the date to submit applications because we needed a little more time to prepare everything. We've given a little bit more time to complete this process, this first phase of voting process. So you have until Friday to get all of that information in. Again, also with a conflict of interest form, please get that to me by Friday as well. After that, we'll pull all the information from SurveyMonkey and we'll provide that to the executive committee to review. They're going to meet on July 12th and go through all that information, go through all of your comments, take a look at it, and then make a determination about who the full membership wants to see more from. Like Kimberly said, who made a compelling case, and who do we want to bring to the pitch party? At the pitch party, if you don't recall, that's just an opportunity in person for us to have a representative from these organizations that are invited come out and give like a 5-minute pitch for the program they're looking for us to support. And then there'll be some time for members to ask them additional questions. So maybe something that wasn't clear in the application, maybe something else comes up and you just want to dig a little bit more. So there'll be an opportunity to do that. We will record those that part of the pitch party for people who cannot attend in person to still be able to see those pitches. So we'll make sure to get that to you, and then we'll have a second round of voting. So for those, that much smaller group of nonprofits invited to the pitch party, you'll have time afterwards to again give us your feedback and perspective on who you think should receive the grant money from our inaugural grant year. So, so that'll take place in September. Then the executive committee will get together again to review your voting, and then they'll make those determinations based on the amount of money that we have available, which organizations receive grants and how much. Then the grand finale is that October 17th award celebration, which will be so exciting. We'll get together, we'll do check presentations and photos, and then send those organizations off to do the good work they told us they would do. They'll have from October until June of 2024 to implement that program and provide us feedback. And then after that, we'll have the opportunity, totally optional, of course, for site visits where the membership can go and see the impact of the dollars spent. So that is the upcoming schedule for the Women's Philanthropic Giving Circle. Any questions on this schedule? Okay. So that is the end of my part of the presentation. I love the questions that have come up thus far. Does anybody have another question that they'd like to bring up? Okay, great. That means I've answered everybody's questions. That's fantastic. But I will let you know, there are people who've reached out after they've started the survey and just wanted to double check on something, just wanted to work something out. Please feel free, if you're stuck with something and have a question, to reach out. We want to make sure that this is an enjoyable an educational process for you. And this is our first year doing this. So we will, after this whole process is over, reach back out to the membership and get some feedback on how this was for you and how we can improve it in the future. So keep that in mind too. We really want your feedback.
Well, Madeline, I just want to say thank you for putting all of this together, and staff. It is a learning experience. It is a lot of information for us to go through, but you know, how blessed are we that we have so many applications our first round. And you know, hopefully in the future we'll continue to grow and keep offering more and more to more organizations. So I'm very grateful for everyone and for all the participants in the Women's Giving Circle. So I can only see good things keep growing. So
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you for your leadership too, Lori. Much appreciated.
Awesome.
All right.
All right. So we have work to do until Friday.
We do, absolutely. So again, any questions that come up, don't hesitate to reach out. We'll have one more Zoom. It'll be identical to this, sans any questions that pop up tomorrow night at 6 o'clock. So again, if you're still having, you know, some questions or just want additional clarification, you can always feel free to pop on that Zoom as well.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you so much. God bless everybody's day. Thank you all for your time and for being a part of this process. And we look forward to you submitting your surveys and the next step of the pitch party.
Awesome.
All right. Thanks, everybody.
All right. Happy day.
Same to you. Thank you, everyone.
Bye-bye.